Those who have not completed, can you please come forward? Can you please tell us what is the status, what you are doing?
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, this side Yash Goel.
Yep. Yeah, yes.
Sir, I haven't submitted the task because we are not sure about our project. We are not sure about the market.
Okay.
We are making an e-commerce platform.
Yeah.
So we are not sure which segment should we target.
All right.
So we are discussing on that. We will complete the task within two days.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
But do you have any doubts or something from the previous session? Because we were broadly talking about how research plays an important role in the whole process of maybe reaching out to right sort of like customers, or maybe defining right audiences, or maybe in some cases understanding what is and what type of market you're going to be in. So
Sir, actually, sir, I haven't attended the previous lecture because I'm traveling, sir. I'm coming from home. So now after this, I will watch the recording. Then
all right.
uh,
Yeah.
I will proceed.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I'll suggest to go through the recording, because that will help you to understand where all you can possibly intervene and maybe do something to benefit your initiative. Yep.
Yes, sir.
Maybe in some cases you can possibly get to certain ideas and you can possibly fine tune or maybe tweak something at this stage. Yeah,
Yes,
research
sir.
becomes very important, very critical at an early stage, because this becomes the foundation for your future work. If let's say you realize something at a later stage, maybe at the time of prototype development, or maybe reaching out to the market, or building your go-to-market strategy or something, during that time you cannot do all the corrections from the previous sort of like activities. It becomes
Yes, sir. You're
very
right.
difficult for you to change course and adopt to new sort of like approaches.
Yes,
If you are aware of a lot of such things at an early stage, possibly those things will remain there in your minds whenever you are going forward, and you will have maybe information added to those sections in a very sort of like simplified manner.
yes, sir. Right, sir.
So I think make a habit of like having research as part of like as a core sort of like element of your all activities. Whenever you're taking up new discussions or new sort of like directions, do a research. Maybe that research may be related to a user segment, or maybe related to market, or maybe related to competitions, or maybe related to something which is emerging in your own domain in terms of technology, whether it is going to be adopted or not adopted easily. So that way, I think research as an integral part of your process will help you to establish yourself in more refined manner. You will have less ambiguity.
Yes, sir.
This is
Thank you,
what
sir.
we discussed that day. We tried to cover few sort of like examples, topics, and one of the activity also we did that day. So I'm just summarizing also for everybody's like understanding why we did that activity. We talked about some approaches which can be adopted in the process of research activity, and which could be tools. And there are multiple thousands of tools are there to do research. You can possibly go and ask questions. You can possibly go and ask questions in more structured manner. You can possibly go and ask question to a group of people together, and you can see the responses and make some inferences out of those responses. In some cases, you can give them questionnaires and ask them to respond to it. These are all tools and approaches of research activity. Yeah. So, in same way, there are a lot of innovative methods also, which are usually as per the convenience of the researcher or the entrepreneur, in terms of collection of data and in terms of interpretation of data. Yeah. Many times it happens like you sometimes collect too much of information from the market, and you don't know how to analyze or how to make use of that information, which is happening in most of the data sort of like centric businesses, where data is data in terms of like consumer responses or consumer behavior or consumers maybe engagement with certain type of activities is so much in number that same cannot be processed and inferences cannot be made out of those information. And it becomes too complicated for somebody to really handle that data. In some cases, data is very misleading. Some cases, data are not in a right sort of like manner. Yeah, they might be having errors. They might be having incomplete information. They might be having biases. The question is not rightly understood by the people, and those type of things happen very common in our scenario, in entrepreneurial journey. So you have to be very careful about avoiding such type of situations where excess of data or maybe excess of information or maybe lack of certain type of responses should not happen at a later stage. So that was something which we discussed. We took up one exercise, very quick one, just to yeah.
The one
So
you
just to discuss, just to understand that how simple sketching approach or simple sketching method can give you some sort of like insights or information from the consumers. So we did one very basic exercise of designing or drawing a AC remote, which can be a universal AC remote, air conditioner remote. Okay. And some of you responded in very interesting manner. And when I was analyzing those images at a later sort of like stage, I was seeing that some of things are very commonly emerging from everybody's response. That power button has to have a very unique position in the remote. The two critical buttons are, one is the mode and second is the temperature control. So this is where I think sketches are giving us responses instead of we asking to the respondents that what is the importance of power button, which is the most important button in air conditioner. These questions you might ask directly and you might not get right responses. But sometimes sketches, sometimes storytelling, sometimes engagement through activities can help you to resolve those issues. So sometimes these basic tools like basic plays, maybe gamification of some situations, sometimes some certain type of activities help you to get information in very easy manner. Okay? Before we go forward, today's day is reserved for the presentation, and we are expecting to have some new groups to make presentations as per the assignment which we discussed day before yesterday, the session which we had day before yesterday. But before that, I would like to go through some more information on research approaches, which will possibly be helpful for you in terms of how you should possibly plan your research. Yep. I'm going to share my screen. So, sir, is it okay? Is it ready?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I hope screen is visible to you. And guys, please
Yes, sir, it
be
is.
present on camera. Please keep your cameras on. It will be helpful for us to engage and see what is sort of like response from your side. Yep. So so basically research approach is or research design is basically to understand how you are going to gather data from the given situation. That situation could be having maybe market elements, could have user elements, could have possibly the environmental conditions, maybe social or some other factors you can possibly capture through your research activities so that you can see where you are right now and where you really want to reach in the process of understanding this scenario. Research approach basically involves certain basic systems of research. The first one is the secondary research. We call it secondary research because it comes from the data which is collected by somebody else. The data which is prepared or which is basically analyzed by some other people who have not been part of your research and who have possibly collected those data before you started your own research. Yeah? So this is usually the data which is collected by multiple agencies, many times government agencies who collect demographic information or maybe population information or some similar sort of like informations are collected by them. It tells you about the audience, number of people, distribution, across the country or maybe states. Those type of secondary data is collected by the government agencies. Sometimes they also collect information about health status in terms of what type of diseases are there, what type of vaccines, what type of services are provided by government and private bodies. So those are secondary data which is available according to different sectors. These data are also collected by uh, private organizations, the corporations, sometimes out of their own interest to understand the deeper market insights. They collect a lot of data and many times they publish those data also. In some cases, the research agencies collect a lot of data from the market. Yeah, they have practice of like going for they serve to certain type of clients requirement and they collect huge amount of data related to multiple factors in the given market scenario. Yeah, these data are usually available to us either by paying some money to these agencies or to the repositories, or in some cases data is easily available. If you just type in terms of like what is the growth rate of healthcare industry in India, the data is available around 22 to 25% growth rate. That shows that industry is growing at a very good rate, very encouraging sort of like growth is there. If you just look for what is the growth rate of mobile industry in India, you'll find very encouraging figures coming up. And those figures can be used by you to understand what is the possibility of business in this scenario. Because everybody is growing at 20%, 20-25%. That means there is a lot of like possibility for a new entrant. Let's say market which is stagnant or which is on a downward sort of like trend is not a good market for you. Yeah, maybe can you recall some of the market which are not very healthy, sort of like or not very lucrative at present scenario? Can you recall some of the market data? Any industry which is not in very positive sort of like growth story or any
Yes, sir.
segment?
Maybe we can call EdTech.
Okay, edtech is growing as per my understanding.
Sir, but it's very difficult to make money in EdTech, no? From seeing the other companies, the good companies doing some major losses and like Byju's and Academy.
Yeah, that is true. But I think there is also one of the trend that a lot of people are going for such type of uh, options. Like they're opting those options which are related to coming from edtech domain. Upgrad, Byju's, uh, Physics Wala. There are a lot of other sort of like players which who are working on the basic sort of like skill upgradation trainings and all. They all are doing really good, as per my understanding. Okay, let's do a survey. Yeah, quick research. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tech industry in India 2023. So this is about okay, there is a drop. You are absolutely right. It has gone down. Growth is negative, but it's very early trend. So we'll have to possibly wait for some more sort of like quarters to see whether industry is in a downward sort of like trend or maybe it will revive and come back to the earlier level. Yeah. Any other sector? Good observation. I think you have mentioned a very important point. As per my understanding, it was like on a very healthy sort of like domain. Diesel
Sir,
cars.
uh,
Yeah, Krishman, you're saying something.
No, sir. I was just
Yep. So diesel car market is, I think, seeing some sort of like stagnation or downward turn. Yeah, because there are restrictions in some of the states related to use of diesel car up to certain years. In other terms, the electric cars are becoming popular. Hybrid cars are picking up and they are gaining some market. There is a lot of uncertainty about how new regulations will come up, and that is why a lot of people, because it's a heavy capital investment, a lot of people are refraining from buying a diesel car, especially in NCR zone. You will find that diesel car market has gone down. So that could possibly be the data which can be helpful if you are getting into that domain. If you are looking into electric car domain, you will possibly be able to make use of this data, that how you can acquire those people who are those customers who are switching from diesel to maybe petrol or maybe more other options of uh, other vehicle options. Yeah. Any other group, any other sector you are seeing that there is a problem?
Sir, newspaper
Okay,
publishing sector,
very
maybe. I
interesting.
don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Newspaper circulation, especially printed newspapers, are in a very dangerous sort of like track right now. Even though a lot of people are still buying newspapers, but I think consumption of news from newspaper has gone down drastically because of availability of multiple sources of news and ease of access. You can get the news within maybe an hour or two instead of waiting for next day to see what is happening in the world. So that way, news agency, news printed newspapers or magazines are seeing some sort of like challenges. These are all data which is secondary data, which is available in the market, and you can possibly make use of this data very easily. Yeah, it's not very difficult. On the other hand, there are primary data, which is usually collected by the entrepreneurs, researchers, as per their requirement. Yeah, in some cases, you are finding no relevant data available in the market, which you can possibly purchase or you can possibly access through your sources. And in those scenarios, what you do, you basically plan a survey, plan a research, and then try to analyze those sort of like situations. And in those scenarios, the primary research is basically divided in two parts. One is qualitative approach and one is quantitative approach, which we were discussing that day. We float a lot of surveys, questionnaires, we do some sort of like observations, we do interviews, we do certain activities, workshops, we do ethnographic research, we try to be in situations and try to observe how things are happening. These are all qualitative and quantitative approaches. In some cases, quantitative approaches are very prominent, like surveys done by the agencies. They mostly rely on quantitative research, where they float surveys for large number of people to see their responses. They ask questions in such a way that those responses are helping them to understand what type of choices or behaviors are there within the consumer segments. Those are quantitative approaches. Yeah. And you do a lot of like statistical approach to statistical methods or statistical sort of like processing to the data, and you get some insight. Qualitative approach is more on a quality side, where you try to discuss with people personally or try to observe them in such a way that you make certain interpretations. Yeah. It becomes very important to understand and sometimes to gain insights about how consumer behave in certain situations. You cannot ask them to fill up those details in a questionnaire. What is their behavior, what type of challenges they are facing, or what they like most or what they like moderately. Yeah, there are problems when you pick those in Likert scales or maybe rating 1 to 5 in a star rating or something. It becomes very, very difficult for you to understand what is happening or what is going on at the back of the mind of the customer. In those cases, you usually prefer to go for the qualitative approach. Here, your inferences and your understanding of situation is more critical than the responses which are provided by the users. Sometimes you go for mixed approach, where you validate certain things from quantitative approach and you take a qualitative approach in some cases. So maybe you go for 1,000 people survey, get some idea, and then you pick few, and then you go and ask them some questions. There's a mixed approach where you have taken a larger base from the quantitative approach, and qualitative approach is basically to give you more deeper insights or more deeper sort of like responses. Then we do analysis and insights from these activities. This is a basic approach you use across the research domain. Either it is a design research or it's a entrepreneurial research or a market research or maybe a scientific research, which is requiring these approaches. We'll follow this process on. Yeah. Then we are talking about secondary research or desk research, which is usually called. talks about the already existing data. I'll quickly go through this and then we'll have a discussion. Research materials published in research reports, public libraries, websites. The data obtained from already filled surveys are usually part of secondary research. The government and non-government agencies information, public library information, educational institutions, commercial information available through maybe Statista or Money Control or these type of websites who are providing very crucial information about market and their behaviors. Yeah. Benefits of secondary research and why you should do it. Why you should usually going for a deeper sort of like research activity, you should go for a secondary research. You should understand what is happening, what is the knowledge which is already existing in the given situation. That knowledge should be acquired first so that you will have certain understanding about what to be done and what not to be done. There is no point in doing a research which is already done by somebody else and the data is already available in the market. Okay? Instead of putting your energy, mind, time in that activity, you should possibly make use of somebody else's data and you can possibly do a very quick, refined sort of like research to understand what is happening there. Yeah. So it helps in identifying the gaps in existing market. It gives you an idea, okay, market is growing at a very interesting rate, or maybe educational sector, edtech sector is going down. So you have got some idea why it is not working out. You got some idea about what gaps are there. What is something which is not fulfilled by the companies which are already existing in the market. All those information you can possibly gather from secondary activity. So it helps in mapping outcome and scope of research. There is already some bit of work done for you by somebody else. It's a good thing that somebody else is working for you and have provided some information for you to consume. This data is easily accessible. So there is no hassle in terms of like collecting that information. It's uphill task to get a right sort of like information otherwise from the market. Going for a large scale survey is a time and money consuming activity. So you might not be able to spend that much of money there. In those scenarios, the secondary data is very easily accessible. It is precise and well worked because those data are published. So they have to follow certain checks and measures. So those data can be quoted and can be possibly referred in certain type of discussions, and people will rely on them because they have been published in the right manner. Okay? So those are precise data, and you should possibly make use of it. It helps in building your primary research foundation. Yeah, so that is the basic idea. So you should consider that why you are collecting the secondary information. This is very important. So what is your objective? What you really want to gain out of this knowledge creation, knowledge collection, data collection? How much data is to be collected? There is huge amount of data, and you can possibly you will not stop if you have your objective is not clear, or you have no clarity about what to collect and what not to collect. You will keep collecting information. You will not be able to analyze them in a right manner. So that clarity is very, very critical. The authenticity of the data is also very important. You should check whether it is coming from a reputed agency or if it is coming from some sources which are not authentic. In some cases, we refer to some sort of like website published information. Sometimes they are not verified or not backed by references. This becomes an issue sometimes, and people question where this information is coming from. So every time you quote something, you say that, okay, this data is coming from these sources. Yeah. And then people possibly will not question your information. Yeah. So its relevance and how you analyze that data is also very, very important to be considered when you go forward. How to perform a secondary research. Yeah. It's a approach, it's a process where you should have a very clear sort of like idea why you and how you want to go for the secondary research. Understand the research question, the question which we are building so far, like in terms of our problem statement. That problem statement itself will be giving you a lot of like insights or directions to frame your secondary data collection approach. Yeah. If it says that, okay, automotive market and diesel cars, that means there are a lot of things which are already coming in here as a bigger question. You can possibly question what is the growth rate of the market, or maybe you can ask for how many customers are there for these cars. What is the price band of the car which are already present in the market? Which car is selling most? Yeah. These are the questions which will emerge when you will do your problem statement rightly. And you can then look for those information in the market scenario. Maybe you can have more questions which have not been answered here can be taken in the primary research. Let's say, what is the mindset change of mindset in diesel car market? Yeah, this question possibly might have not been answered by the research questions, yeah, or research information so far. You can go and you can possibly ask this question in a primary setting, a primary research approach. So those areas are to be explored in detail, and then you can possibly find out how and where you will possibly look for the secondary information. Then comes the primary sort of like research. Yeah, primary research is divided in quantitative and qualitative approach. Quantitative approach basically talks about quantitative, it basically gives you information in numbers. So these many people have been surveyed. These many people have responded positively. These many have responded negatively. And these many have been neutral to the question. This happens in a lot of time. Political parties come up with this idea. Who's going to be the prime minister, yeah, in the next government? And sometimes back, this used to be the question. Yeah, and people used to respond, okay, Manmohan Singh is a better prime minister, or Narendra Modi is going to become a better prime minister. It used to be a question very commonly floated in by multiple news agencies. Yeah, and they used to get some sort of like idea about what people are thinking about these. These are all quantitative questions where they can say that okay, 30% people are supporting this leader, 40% are supporting some other leader, and remaining 30% are supporting some other leader in a given situation. Yeah. So quantitative sort of like understanding of this information is very easy for us to understand who is leading and who can possibly be the next leader. So this is basically a process of collection of data in numeric form. So everything will be asked in terms of numbers. If you are giving choice from the 4 colors or upcoming cars, you can possibly ask people which color you like. You'll be able to see distribution in terms of like how many people prefer black, how many people prefer white, how many prefer gray, and how many people prefer silver cars. And any other car, if you put a mark, you can possibly see what type of responses are there in other colors. And this data will tell you about how people have choices in terms of any specific segment of the car. Yeah. Variable, dependent, and this analyzes the relationship between them. So in this scenario, let's say you're seeing more people prefer black cars, gray cars, and silver cars. That says that there has to be some color in the car. Yeah? It cannot be just white. And you can possibly make some inferences by using these data. So it's a simple approach to see how distribution is happening. What is the relationship between these two? How many people prefer black and white against all possible other colors? What is the percentage of black and white among all colors? Yeah, if it is on a higher trend, possibly companies can plan their production in that manner. Yeah, in some cases it happens that companies have plans for next 6 months by having these information to produce different type of cars, different colors of cars. Okay. Lot of time these data are analyzed by using statistical methods. Yeah, you do a lot of like regression study, distribution studies, or maybe you make pivot chart and you see interrelationship between the information which is collected through different tools. Yeah. So these are some of the types where you ask questions which are descriptive. Sometimes you have correlational research. These are more deeper, but you can just have a quick idea about, and possibly as and when it is required, you can possibly look for more information on this. Yeah. So these are some types of research approaches in the quantitative research methods, and we can possibly adopt multiple approaches as per the requirement in the given situations. Yeah. So tools are basically research data review and referencing, which is one of the common sort of like approach. Observation based data collection is. Unknown user, please keep your mic. All right. So some of the approaches or tools are here, and these tools we'll be discussing in the next session, which we are going to plan next month. But largely, the quantitative data is collected based on the secondary data review and the referencing. So that is one of the platform or one of the basis of like collection of data. In some cases, we do observation analysis. So we sometimes you must have seen that people are observing certain type of traffic distribution. How many cars are passing in a given time, and what type of concentration is there in the traffic scenario. These are all observational data which are captured either by the cameras, and by applying some AI you can do counting. But earlier times people used to manually count and see what type of like concentration of cars are there in the given traffic scenario. Yeah. This is observation based data collection, and some numeric data you will get in the at the end of research. Then you can do surveys and questionnaires. You can do a survey, you can go and ask questions, you can fill up form the way population survey is done. Or you can ask certain type of questions by making people fill up those forms on their own. Yeah. So respondent filled forms are the questionnaires, whereas surveys could be somebody is responding and you are possibly marking those domains. Probability sampling in the large sort of like masses. Let's say detergent products market. Yeah, detergent market is a very huge market consumed by across the population in the country. You can possibly have some sampling, and you can go and search at some of the do the research at some of the household levels, and can possibly make a probability sort of like distribution that how many people out of the sample are basically using these type of detergents. How many of them are using premium detergent versus how many of them are using low price or low segment detergents. In some cases, you do interviewing to the target audiences and collect these quantitative information. Yeah. So questions to be answered in the survey. Mostly we rely on the questions which are to be very generic or to be very acceptable to the audiences. So the bigger question is like, how will the potential sample members will be identified and selected? How you will select your samples? How you will possibly reach out to right people so that your data will be a right representation of the large masses? What approach will be taken to contact those samples? It's very difficult. A lot of time we rely, especially the early stage researchers rely on their personal contacts. You go and ask your friend, okay, what you really like about a certain type of product, and your friend will always say something which is not a real response. We're knowing you and knowing your efforts, possibly sometimes they will mislead you by answering in certain way. This is a very interesting trap in research, and you should not rely on your close ones or close networks to respond to your questions, and try to go to the audience which are real representation of your market. Yeah. How much effort to be devoted to evaluate the responses? It's very important that you should not be getting into a trap of doing this research and analyzing the data. You should be very careful, and you should have a right judgment to collect information in right manner. You should not be investing too much of money, time, and efforts. What more to be used to pose these questions and collect the answers? Yeah, how you are posing these questions? You're going in a very sort of like a very sophisticated manner in a slum, asking certain questions will not give you right answers. So your postures, your position, your presence, your presentation should be very carefully analyzed. It's very important that you should not influence your respondents. It should not happen that some probes are or some sort of like biases are created by you, which are misleading in terms of the responses. So how much accurate data you should get? You should not be looking for perfect accuracy or maybe highest efficiency of your research outcome. This is a trap again. You should not be looking for 100% answers. It is not going to happen in research. So you have to have an estimate of like, okay, these responses are good enough to tell me what is going to happen in the market. Yeah, it's very important. And judgment of the entrepreneur is very critical. In some cases, it also happens that while doing research, you also come across insights which have never been asked through your questions. Yeah, and that also is sometimes considered to be a leading sort of like direction as compared to other responses which have been received. Yeah. So that way, quantitative analysis is very interesting. It is a mass scale sort of like understanding of how people are thinking and how they are responding to certain type of questions. But sometimes we rely on qualitative research, which is which is mostly to explore the social behavior or maybe individuals' behavior in a given setting. Okay. So maybe somebody will say, okay, we want detergent which is really good, which should save a lot of like water. We are wasting too much of water and this and that. There will be a lot of like responses, and by going by this, sometimes back PNG came up with a detergent which was having less water consumption. In the process, what was happening? The detergent was creating less foam, yeah, or less leather was produced by the foam. And by doing so, it was using less amount of water because ultimately you have to get rid of that foam which has been created by the soap, the detergent, the chemical. Yeah. And to get it out of the cloth, you have to wash it multiple times. So they said that, okay, it doesn't require that much of foam and there should be less foam and people should be happy with the detergent, which is not creating too much of foam. But this idea was not taken up in a right manner. Yeah, a lot of people rejected this idea that if there is less foam, that means it's a good cleaning. Yeah, this concept doesn't go well with Indian audience. Yeah. Across the world, most of the big established market, foam is not having any relationship with cloth washing. But in India, we relate amount of foam with amount of washing. Yeah. So if it is creating too much of foam, that means it is doing its work well. Yeah. This is a perception we have, and that is where all our detergent companies are trying to create more foam out of small scoop of detergent. But it's not a right way to understand by asking questions. Okay, do you want to save water and should it have a lesser foam or higher foam? You will possibly not be getting right answers. So in those scenarios, the data is very qualitative to be, and it has to be collected in a very intelligent manner. If you ask direct questions, possibly you will not get responses. So you have to go a little deeper, go a little away from your conventional way of asking questions and understand what is happening in the given situation. This is what is qualitative research, which basically looks into the life of the respondents or customers or users or target audiences and tries to understand how it can possibly give you some leading sort of like answers. Okay. It's more explorative research approach, which deals with the meaning and understanding of individuals in a given situations. So we are more concerned about what is the meaning which we are gaining out of it instead of what are the answers which are emerging from here. And it's very, very important to understand what is happening at the back of the mind of the respondents. Yeah. Process of research involves emerging questions and procedures. So maybe you might not have questions which are in an order. You will ask somebody's age, you will ask what type of detergent you use, and then you will ask, okay, what type of clothes you are washing by using this detergent. And suddenly you came across some idea about asking a question about washing machine. You can ask maybe a question saying, okay, do you wash your clothes in washing machine or you hand wash them? The respondent said, I usually use washing machines. Then you can have next question that do you have automatic machine or semi-automatic machine? Maybe on automatic machine, you can also be more interested in understanding what type of automatic machine you are using right now. Okay. So this is how questions are emerging. In some cases, you are also trying to understand what is something which is hidden there in the given situation, which you really want to collect as a data. Yeah. Researchers' interpretation of meaning of data influences the analysis. Yeah. So your background, your understanding, your interest to do this research is a lot of time influential in terms of outcome of the research. So researchers' role is very, very critical. The entrepreneur's role is very, very critical. And you must have seen a lot of like good entrepreneurs say that they go out and try to engage with customers. This is one of the biggest reasons that they really want to understand what is their customers thinking, what they really want. Yeah. And you as an entrepreneur should also get into this activity and in a right manner. Yeah. That you not get biased or you don't make your own inferences out of this. But definitely your interpretation is very, very important. You can possibly describe complexities and challenges in descriptive manner. So in those scenarios, you can possibly not only look at the responses, but you can also capture the larger scenario, which I was giving an example of washing machine household survey. And we are not only seeing that washing machine, how it is being used, but also we are seeing in what type of household setup this washing machine is installed. And we were noting down those information to understand why certain type of behaviors are there in certain type of customers, and where aspiration plays a bigger role than the functions of the washing machine. So those are mostly researchers sort of like interest and interpretation in a larger scenario. In terms of qualitative research, we can possibly make use of this diagram, which talks about the iceberg's condition in a given situation. An iceberg is usually visible only one third part of iceberg is visible in a sea surface. Yeah. Rest 2/3 is lying underneath, and that is why it floats. That is how it floats in the sea. So usually conscious responses are those which are visible. When you ask which color you like, somebody will say black. Subconscious mind will say, okay, black is not auspicious. Black acquires too much of heat, and black is something which is difficult to be maintained. These are the subconscious responses. If you just ask them right questions, they will respond in these manners. Unconscious mind might be saying, okay, resale value, maintenance issues, or maybe black is something which is not standing out, not visible in the night. Yeah, could be unconscious mind's response. And these are the responses which are many times happens that these are the responses which are deciding the final outcome of decision making. And this is where one qualitative approach helps you to understand how people are behaving. Boundaries, broadly, the boundaries are like this: the natural settings where we try to get engaged with the consumers. Uh, it is basically a process of understanding your respondents. So you try to understand how they're based and how they're placed and how they're responding and how they are possibly engaging with different type of situations. It's inductive in nature. So based on the respondents' responses. So basically you build on conversations, you build on your research activity, you come across some insights, and then you build on your next approach. This is very intuitive and inductive sort of like approach as compared to the quantitative approach where you have laid down processes and you just go and collect the data till the time you meet all the requirement. You keep collecting that data and keep analyzing that information. Yeah. Interpretation of data decides the outcome. So it is purely dependent on how you interpret it. You might have multiple sort of like interpretation of given data, which is collected by the research team. And you can make one sort of like choice out of that. Yeah, that is a bigger policy in this scenario. And this is where I think a lot of like enterprises amazingly build their business on. And sometimes they miss out on certain interesting insights also. So your interpretation is very, very, very critical. Yeah. And your interpretation builds from your own knowledge. If you have great knowledge, you have great experience, your team is very varied sort of like expertise people's team, then possibly you will be able to make multiple inferences of your data. If you are all engineers, all designers, all management guys sitting together and talking in same language, possibly your interpretation will lead to certain type of insights. So it's also very important to interpret that data in a very collective sort of like manner. There might be no one interpretation. Yes, it's very, very important. Yeah. You might not come up with one idea that, okay, black color cars are going to work. You may say that, okay, black will work, but in these situations. If you change category, then black is never going to work. Could be next interpretation. You may say that, okay, black is there, but some tone should be there. Dual toning is a better approach where complete black is not going to work. Yeah. Could be one another inference of outcome. Yeah. And this definitely has a influence of researcher in the research design and execution. So qualitative research is very, very dangerous also in some cases. Sometimes it has biases of researcher or the entrepreneur, especially in social setting. You may go to a community, you can go discuss, talk to them, and you have all the time, you have certain type of biases about maybe education at certain level, or maybe condition of the government schools, or maybe level of teachers training. And those biases are very important to be understood and to be removed. But many times it doesn't happen. and you get trapped in that setting. Okay. Challenges are very common. We have discussed this, so I'll quickly go through it. Selection of topic, questions, tools is very important and critical. Identifying, getting right target audience. You have to have access of right target audiences, and they should be responding to you in right manner. Researchers training, because you will not be doing all the research on your own. So you might have some volunteers, especially in social domain. You rely on people who are on the field, and you have to train them rightly so that they will collect right sort of like information from the field. Many times it happens that the extended researchers are not that serious or not that aligned with your idea, and sometimes they collect data just to meet their requirement. Yeah, might be they have committed to the process, or might be they are paid for it. You have to be very careful about training them in the right manner. Yeah. Especially in social innovation. I'm just repeating it again and again that social innovation is a very sensitive domain. Yeah. You have to be very careful about how you reach out to audiences, how you possibly deal with them, how you possibly ask them right questions, and how you collect all the data in right manner, and ultimately how you interpret that data. So it's very, very important to look into all these details so that you will not miss out on right information. And then how you present your research finding when you are pitching it to the maybe funding agencies. The next rounds of pitch are going to work on that. Your research findings and user research insights and presentations have to have those information in right manner. It's very, very critical to look into that aspect. And then quickly moving forward, yeah, I will possibly I'll quickly go through the uh, assignment which I shared with you yesterday. So when you plan your research, I will really suggest that you look into certain these insights, certain these ideas about how your research should be there. Your problem statement, which we have already discussed in detail, maybe try to put it in one page, in a one or two paragraph sort of like approach, and keep revising and keep maybe keep revisiting your problem statement as you reach certain milestone. Go back and check whether your problem statement is still relevant or not. This will possibly help you to start your presentation in very strong manner. Then we have discussed how you define your users, and then try to look, and may have multiple other questions also in this segment. Yeah. Try to see who are your users. Maybe you can start with a user if you have identity of your users well established in your problem statement. If you have an idea and you are not aware of your user, then possibly you can skip this and may look into idea and its larger scope, and then try to define the user segment through their segmentation, targeting, and positioning. Yeah, but identify who is the user, whatever problems they are facing, what alternatives they have right now from the competitors or maybe from the other alternatives. Yeah. So 1 lakh rupee car nano. People used to think, marketers used to think that okay, there is no alternative to this 1 lakh rupee car. But at a later stage, people realized that all second-hand cars were the alternative to nano. And that is where they were facing challenges because they were more like a car, sort of like structures than nano. Nano used to look very small as compared to the second-hand 800 or maybe Zen or maybe other cars, Hyundai Zing, Santro Zing and all were available at 1 lakh rupee at that time when Nano was launched in the market. So these could be possibly your customers' alternative, and all the people who have four members family might not be willing to buy a Nano, and instead they will go for a second-hand car possibly. So those are to be analyzed rightly. Why will they take your solution? Yeah, this question should have been asked by Tatas in a stronger manner. Why people will take Nano? Will they take Nano because they don't have any car, or will they take Nano because they just wanted to have a car? Yeah. Or they really aspire to have a car? Yeah. Are the three different questions which need to be answered? Yeah. And if car is getting established in the last question, it's an aspiration instead of a means to commute, then possibly you have to have a car which is fulfilling that aspiration. Yeah. And this is where I think, or people want to have a second car in the home, at the second car at the home. Yeah, that is also one of the biggest question where Nano was fitting very well in a given situation. Yeah, this could have been presented as a second car in the family. and would have been there in the market so far. So why they will take your solution? Why they will really give you a try and they will buy your products? How much they would really be willing to invest or pay for your offering? Yeah. So a lot of people will be willing to pay for a car, but not 1 lakh rupee. Or maybe they are willing to pay 2 or 3 lakh rupees also. That is not an issue. But car has to be like a car. Yeah. Even though Nano was a great engineering sort of like marvel. Yeah. Very nicely done, very innovative car. Every big company jumped with the idea of like $3,000 car. Yeah. I was reading newspaper during that time. I used to read newspaper and to see the quotes of all these big car makers. Toyota was saying we are looking into possibility of $3,000 car. Honda was talking like this, and they were not just talking about this in India, but they were talking about other developing markets also. Yeah, this was the impact of Tata's car through their engineering, through their manufacturing capability, by reducing price of uh, components and assembly and everything. They could achieve it in a right manner, but they somewhere missed out on who's their user and how that user should be basically their requirement should be addressed. Then bring in what is your market, and we will be having a detailed session separately on how to define your market and how to possibly look into the possibility where you can sell your product. Yeah, so have those early ideas in your mind. Having a good sort of like understanding of market is a very important thing for an entrepreneur. You might have further refinements. You might change your market sort of like target market definition in a later stage. But having some idea about where your products are going to be sold is very important at this stage. Yeah. Then you possibly look for what type of user research and what type of market research you are going to plan and how this research is going to give you some sort of big insight. This was something which I floated yesterday, and I really look forward to some of the presentations, yeah, to see how we can possibly have a discussion on this. Yeah, so this is from my side. I think this is the end of slides. Yes. Yep. I'll stop presenting. So can we have few groups who are ready with their slides? Maybe Ashutosh, your group can come first. Yeah, and then Gitanjali. So Ashutosh, Gitanjali, have you presented last time also?
No, sir, I hadn't presented last time, so I'll be
Okay.
starting with.
So we'll try to take those groups who have not presented last time, and we can possibly have a quick discussion, and then we can possibly look for those who already have a detailed discussion about their problem statement earlier.
Sir, is my screen visible?
No, no, just a moment. I'll have to stop presenting. Okay, yeah, I can see. Yeah.
So the problem statement that I have identified includes that resources in the domain of mental wellness remain limited, and there's a stigma surrounding mental health which prevents individual from seeking help. There's a linguistic barrier as well while communicating to mental health professionals, and people don't want to disclose their identity to their counselors or therapists. And for this, I have some supporting facts as well. These facts are from a report from Economic Times in October 2023 and as well as World Health Organization statistics. So these figures tell us that how the depression and mental health disorders have increased like to 25%, and these facts are limited only to India. So there's a 25% increase in mental health disorders, and like 60 to 70 million people in India feel these mental health disorders, and India has been named as world suicide capital with over 2.6 lakh cases of suicide in a year. And the main fact is that we have a limited number of mental health professionals like zero point 0.3 psychiatrists, 0.07 psychologists, and social workers per a lakh people, whereas what developed countries or the global average is about 6.6%. Like 6,600 people for 1 lakh people, and India has 30 people for 1 lakh people as
Okay.
psychologists or psychiatrists. For the user segments, I have defined their roles and what issues they are facing, like young adults and students. They need help navigating through academic pressure, peer relationships, and transitioning to adulthood. Working professionals have work related stress and like in time management and enhancing their productivities. Individuals recovering from mental health disorders, they require continued support, and sometimes it is impossible for them to afford this because of the recurrent costs of these counseling sessions and therapy sessions. And the auxiliary user segments which we might target in future include parents and caregivers
Hmm.
for healthy family dynamics, like and individual with chronic conditions or disabilities, like mental in the domain of mental health people. There's not much focus on people who are disabled and like their problems are not identified correctly, so we want to provide support to them as well, so that they maintain a positive outlook of the situation and how to cope with the society, and like giving them a feeling that they are no less than anyone. And like this pretty much sums up what problems people are facing, as I discussed earlier, like lack of availability and affordability, lack of awareness and education, and financial constraint that people are facing while accessing these resources. This pretty much what effect their mental health situation is having on their work ethics. This slide determines that. So I've done a bit of research on existing mental health products or resources which are available online.
Okay.
And like Your Dost is quite an established platforms. It only
Yeah.
offers counseling and therapy, whereas this Doc Vita offers some mindful exercises and meditational aspects as well. Clarity app is for a support group based platform for handling mental wellness, and Able Mind is also a platform regarding the same. So what my platform is going to offer is, we want to focus on building a healthy lifestyle. We want to offer a sustainable product which makes you self-sufficient while dealing with mental health issues. We'll provide self-help materials, educational resources. Like after a point of time, we want to reduce the recurring cost which are related in the domain of mental wellness with respect to counseling sessions and therapy sessions. A comprehensive mental health assessment test. Like most of platforms are offering this test, but I feel that they are using some random algorithm. Even if you answer the same responses to all of their questions, a different
Okay.
solution would open every time. So which makes me doubt on their credibility a bit. And I want to incorporate AI based solutions, and even like in a longer run provide VR based therapy sessions to overcome the problem of limited mental health professionals, like 30 people to 1 lakh people. So we would have to incorporate AI technology as well for that. So
All right.
so the
Yeah.
target market that I have taken is the metropolitan or developed cities like Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore, and then I'll expand to other cities as well. Our program is to take it globally, but moving slowly with these things, like implementing it in some areas and then seeing how those areas are responding, and then expanding the services. And services that our platform will be offering will be like stress management, mood tracking, meditation, psychoeducation, and professional assistance. The existing competition in Indian market is like 280 mental health startups are there. These investment, I'm not so sure about. These are like the global figures.
Yeah.
So I'll move on to the user research that I've conducted. So these were some of the questions that are circulated among my peers and the responses that I got. Like these responses highlight that people are not feeling comfortable sharing their mental health issues with their mental health professionals or psychiatrists and psychologists, and they want an anonymity to be maintained. And the main focus of our application or solution would be on providing comfort to the users, basically building a customer centric platform so that their problems are addressed completely and thoroughly.
Okay.
And these are a few like challenges that are there in the domain, like limited access to resources, lack of awareness, and barriers to professional help. And lastly, it's about the social impact that it would be creating, taking like SDG 3 on good health and well-being, quality education, like we'll be promoting self-help and educational content in that domain, decent work and economic growth, and reduced inequalities.
Yeah.
And another point that I would like to add is that the existing products, they are like very much diversified. They are focusing on a few things, like some are focusing on professional help like counseling sessions, some are focusing on mindful exercises and yoga based solutions, some are totally dependent on AI based solutions. So my focus is to build a cumulative platform which offers all of these resources at a single place.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you have compiled a lot of like information which are relevant to your domain. I have few questions. Like, what is your key challenge? What key sort of like problem you are seeing in this domain? What is something which is really a pressing problem? Is it lack of awareness about mental health or accessibility to a mental health professional, or maintaining secrecy or anonymity is the challenge, or maybe something else, or
So like
communication?
the two of the major challenges that I've realized are lack of accessibility and lack of awareness. Like people are not
Awareness.
aware that they are having such issues because like since childhood or there's not much focus on mental health in Indian scenarios, in Indian
Yeah,
education system, and
yeah,
like so growing up. So we need to foster and promote a community, like we need to have such campaigns to promote about mental wellness. Once
yeah.
people become aware about if they are having such issues or problems, I think half of the problems would reduce. And
Yes.
even if we'll be providing self-help materials to them that are also quite sufficient in like not in severe cases, but for people feeling sad or who require some lifestyle changes, like they need
Yes.
to add meditation, yoga, or
Yeah.
mindful exercises to their schedule. And the linguistic barrier is also a problem, which like upon interview I found this to be a problem.
Yes.
Like if I talk to linguistically people from different ethnicities and like different states, so they are comfortable in their regional languages while communicating. They don't feel comfortable conversing in English. So that's also an issue. So these two are the major issues that are there in the mental wellness scenario in India.
Okay, so Ashutosh, I will suggest if you can go to the data slide, the secondary information slide. Possibly you should emphasize on these parts more critically. Yeah, there is accessibility, communication issues, and awareness issues to establish your problem statement in the minds of the audience. Yes, so audience could be the people who are going to be associated with you, or maybe people who are going to support you. they should be able to understand why you are emphasizing so much on these three critical areas. Apart from this, definitely more number of experts, their training, their ability to converse, and every other thing will be done. But I think this is a very critical one. Awareness, communication between two, and go to the earlier slides. This is the research insights, but secondary data, where you're talking about the numbers or number of suicide cases and number of okay, this one, yeah. And before this, there was something else here. Can you go to the slide two? Okay, third slide number 3. Yeah. So this slide basically talks about anxiety disorder grew from 298 million people affected to 375 million people, which is 25% increase in India. One, if it is in India, in what duration this has increased? Maybe in last 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, yearly increase is there, or so 27, 374.
This increase was post-pandemic recorded, like.
All right, provide that information. There should not be any doubt about which era or which sort of like segment of time we are talking about. Yeah. So maybe if you say that from 2020 to 2024, this is the increase in number of people, then we can understand, okay, 25% increase is a really big increase. If it is from 2010 to 2020, then data is outdated because in last 2 or 3 years, mental health awarenesses awareness level has gone up, and data should be much different than what it is being presented right now. Yeah. So those could be the questions. I think that is on the disorder which is noticed or recorded and might not have been addressed. Yeah. Then possibly close to 60 to 70 million people in India suffer from common and severe mental disorders. Okay. That is all right. It is alarming to know that India is the world suicide capital. Now, when you want to relate suicide cases, number of suicide cases with the mental disorder, then you also have to have a bridge between these two. Yeah. So you can possibly say that the number of one is like 2.6 lakh out of 150 crore population might be a very small number. Yeah. But you are saying that, okay, these are the numbers which are in increasing terms, and there is a very alarming sort of like situation. So maybe you can have something which backs your idea of like lack of maybe availability of mental sort of like care support. If you want to take this for that purpose, then it's a very strong point. But you have to possibly lead it in that way. Then you are talking about the number of professionals and lack of like support system in the present scenario, which is also establishing your accessibility part. Yeah. Awareness and accessibility part. I think you have not addressed communication here in this slide. Maybe you are talking about why people don't come forward, why people are not able to share their real issues. What are the means of like sharing their real issues, but they are not able to do that? Yeah. Could also be part of your maybe information. This is just to give an idea, like this is my perspective, that how these 3 key domains should be addressed through your secondary data. Yeah. Once it is established, then you can possibly bring in those information which you have presented in other slides in terms of like how many people responded yes or no, whether they have been in depression for a given time or ever in their life, where people 56% people are saying no and 41 are saying yes, something like that. That can possibly be primary data coming for the deeper research in terms of like what is awareness and what is accessibility and what is lack of communication. Yeah. So that way, if you establish your problem statement, you back it by secondary data, it becomes very easy for you to pick primary level questions. So maybe you can have some refinement here, and we can possibly discuss that in terms of like how it is emerging and how it is telling you to pick up certain areas. Your further questions will also help you in terms of like where you should have your focus on. Should you focus more on the centers where people are coming and getting some sort of like support, or whether you should focus on institutions where these things are happening, like offices, high pressure job scenarios, maybe schools where awareness can be provided, or maybe more such scenarios where such type of people are like usually to be captured, to be found, to be identified. Yeah. So that will possibly emerge from your later stage. Yeah. Okay, but I think it's interesting to see how you have built the plot and how you're possibly working on that. You have a platform ready where you can keep doing experiments in not only in terms of research but also in terms of insights and directions. It's a good level to possibly go further. Yeah.
Sir,
Okay.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. Any question from other groups also, we can possibly have a discussion.
Sir, like I had a doubt about the figures. I don't have such concrete figures for that communication one. That's based on the user surveys that I have conducted. So should I include that part? Rest is based on WHO reports and news articles that I found online.
Yeah, no, those reports are authentic. Even news, reputed newspaper or news channel, reputed news channel give you a very authentic figure because they are responsible to people, and somebody may question and they may be penalized also if they are not presenting the right information or right data. Yeah. They might tweak in terms of like what they really want to say in some of the scenarios. They might say something but don't mean it and leave it up to the interpretation of audience. But whenever it comes to the numbers, data, they have to be precise. So you can rely on them. If you want to have more detailed sort of like information, maybe you can go to hospitals or maybe you can go to research institutions where such type of informations are collected in the form of journals or in form of statistical sort of like references. They have interesting sort of like collection of yearly sort of like surveys so that you can possibly access through them. Okay.
And sir, I had another question as well.
Yes, sir.
Like for the user section, I want to target like victims of domestic abuse and war veterans as well, but I want to keep the affordability quite minimal for them because they can't afford such services due to their economic conditions. So how do I address that challenge? Like I am not able to find a concrete solution.
Yeah, so
Looking
maybe
forward to
that will happen at a later stage, or maybe you can possibly having some idea about how you can make it more affordable and can have more cross sort of like domains. So maybe the solution is not limited to one segment of people, maybe youth or somebody who's like more accessible right now. But those offshoots or extensions can be emerging at a later stage that you can plan possibly. See, ultimately, being a social enterprise, you also have to see that how funds are raised, how it can be more acceptable to the people who are really deprived of such type of issues. Yeah, such type of support. In those scenarios, you can possibly create models where you can look for CSR, or maybe you can look for some model to generate revenue, or maybe you can focus around maybe something which will be more sustaining in terms of business prospect. So those exploration you can keep doing, and that should emerge maybe at a little later stage, and you have more clarity about how your solution is going to be taken by the people. Yeah. So again, that model, library model from the philanthropist Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie, when he had this idea that he wanted to establish libraries, he also emphasized on how these libraries are going to expand and how they are going to be sustaining. And then he created some model where he asked community themselves to contribute to the cause, so that he will have to invest less money in any project, any given project, and he can have multiple more libraries on the go. See, Carnegie's idea was not just to have some library, but he also possibly wanted to convey the larger idea of having knowledge accessible to people who are deprived of that. Yeah. See, he also, I think, wanted to create an image of this movement, which was more critical than the impact which was created by the library by having some 10, 15, 20 library at an early stage. Possibly idea, if it goes fast and it goes wide, then it becomes a movement. Yeah. Otherwise, there are a lot of such things which are done in the name of CSR activity and have been done by the organization in limited domains and have not been scaled to that level. So one good example, I will, please don't take it as a critical sort of like analysis of this thing, but Anna Hazari's village, where there is that can be called as a unique sort of like that can be called as a very ideal sort of like village. Yeah, it's a good model as a village, but how it has expanded to other villages, how this idea has been taken by people to implement that model in other villages. Has it happened in that manner? Yeah. So if it has happened to maybe 10 or 20 villages, then it's a good model. If it has gone to 100 or 1,000 villages, then it's a really amazing model as a social innovation. But I think his experiment was very amazing. He did a lot of like amazing innovations in the process of transforming those villages or that one village. But we also have a responsibility to scale it up to a level where it becomes a moment and it reaches out to a large number of people to benefit them and to create some sort of like impact in the society. Yeah. So maybe you can explore these ideas also when it becomes accessible, how it can become more affordable. Affordability is coming at a later levels or maybe on the outer circle. We're talking about affordability. You are talking about means. You might possibly be talking about maybe more engagement or more funding. Could be your idea at a next level of circle. But core is where you're talking about mental health, and the first few three contact points are the awareness, the accessibility, and the ease of communication. This is your primary motive. Second will be maybe affordable, maybe more wider sort of like reach, more participation of government or local agencies could be the next objective. I think Gitanjali has some point. Yeah, we can invite Gitanjali and maybe we can take one more organization at a later stage.
Good evening, sir.
So Gitanjali, have we discussed your problem statement earlier? Yes, I remember. Yeah. So should we give a chance to maybe some other group? It will be really good.
As you wish, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
as you wish. Yeah,
So,
sure.
or you want to sum up maybe in a very quick sort of like manner? We can possibly go through the slides and we can have a discussion, quick one.
Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah, yeah, please. Please
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah. मैं अपनी स्क्रीन शेयर करती हूँ. So मैं स्टार्ट करूंगी मतलब अपनी प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट से. तो मतलब सर हम इसमें तीन मेन प्रॉब्लम्स एड्रेस कर रहे हैं. सबसे पहली प्रॉब्लम आती है कि 30% ऑफ पेशेंट्स जो कि एक्सेस करना चाहते हैं मेडिसिन को फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट और उनके पास इनफ बजट नहीं है उन्हें बाहर से परचेज करने का, उन्हें बहुत स्ट्रगल करना पड़ता है हॉस्पिटल्स में लॉन्ग क्यूज में. पहली प्रॉब्लम ये. सेकंड प्रॉब्लम वी आर एड्रेसिंग कि जो प्रिस्क्रिप्शन उन्हें डॉक्टर्स पेज पे लिख के देते हैं, एक पेपर पे लिख के देते हैं, उन्हें संभालना, उन्हें मतलब एक तरह से संभाल के रखना जब तक कि हम नेक्स्ट अपॉइंटमेंट के लिए नहीं जाते, ये भी एक इशू होता है. हमसे खो जाती है बार बार पेपर पे लिखी हुई पर्ची. थर्ड प्रॉब्लम पेपर वेस्टेज की मतलब हर बार नया पेशेंट आता है और हम पेपर का यूज करते हैं और जैसा कि हमें पता है एनवायरमेंटल पर्सपेक्टिव से ये भी एक इशू है कि बहुत ज्यादा पेपर वेस्ट होता है इसमें हॉस्पिटल्स में. तो ये तीन प्रॉब्लम्स हम एड्रेस करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. तो दिस वाज अबाउट प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट. नेक्स्ट आता है कि हमारे यूजर्स कौन है. मेनली हमारे यूजर्स वो लोग हैं जिनके पास इनफ बजट नहीं है बाहर से परचेज करने का मेडिसिन को प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल से, प्राइवेट क्लिनिक से, और साथ के साथ वो गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल से एक्सेस नहीं कर पा रहे फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट. क्यों? क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल की मैनेजमेंट और लंबी लाइनें उन्हें एक्सेस ही नहीं करने दे रही उन्हें फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट, और साथ के साथ उनके पास इतना बजट भी नहीं है कि वो बाहर से खरीदें. ये है हमारे मेन यूजर्स. और साथ ही साथ और यूजर्स कौन से आते हैं, गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल्स यानी कि गवर्नमेंट्स, और दूसरे यूजर्स हमारे वो हैं जो कि हमारा सिस्टम यूज करना पसंद करें, mainly government hospitals. I'm not including private hospitals in this. So this was about our users. Next, हमने प्रॉब्लम देख ली कि उनको क्या वो फेस करनी पड़ रही है. देन क्वेश्चन आता है कि आखिर वो हमारा सोल्यूशन क्यों लेंगे. 4 रीजंस बहुत ही आसान से. उनकी एनर्जी बचती है, लंबी लाइनों में खड़े होके कौन इतनी मेहनत करेगा, उनकी एनर्जी बचती है, उनका टाइम बचता है, उनके पैसे बचते हैं. गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल से फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट मिल रही है, बाहर से उन्हें परचेज करनी पड़ेगी. चौथा, हम जो सिस्टम प्रपोज करना चाहते हैं वो बहुत ही इजी टू यूज है करंट सिस्टम से. तो इन 4 रीजंस की वजह से वो हमारा सोल्यूशन लेना पसंद करेंगे. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन आता है कि उन्हें कितना इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा. जो सोल्यूशन हम प्रपोज करेंगे उसमें उनको सिर्फ इतना ही इन्वेस्ट करना है कि उनके पास एक मोबाइल फोन होना चाहिए, स्मार्टफोन होना चाहिए, जिससे कि वो हमारा सिस्टम एक्सेस कर सकें. उन्हें और कुछ भी इन्वेस्ट करने की जरूरत नहीं है उसमें. सो ये थे क्वेश्चंस जो हमने एड्रेस किए. फिर आता है मार्केट साइज, कि आखिर जिस प्रॉब्लम को हम सॉल्व करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं उसका मार्केट साइज है कितना. तो हमने, जैसे कि आपने अभी प्राइमरी रिसर्च और सेकेंडरी रिसर्च के बारे में बात की, हमने भी सेकेंडरी रिसर्च की, वेबसाइट्स पे सर्च किया. सिर्फ सेकेंडरी नहीं, हमने प्राइमरी रिसर्च भी की. तो सेकेंडरी रिसर्च के मुताबिक जो मार्केट साइज है इसका वो 98.98 बिलियन यूएसडी है इस वक्त प्रेजेंटली, जो कि कोविड टाइम से 12% के CAGR यानी कि कंपाउंड एनुअल ग्रोथ रेट से इंक्रीज कर रहा है कोविड के टाइम से. और ये होप की जा रही है, एंटिसिपेशन है कि 2032 तक ये जो ग्रोथ रेट है वो 5.8% हो जाएगी और हमारा जो मार्केट साइज है वो ग्रो होकर 163.71 बिलियन यूएसडी का हो जाएगा. ये मार्केट साइज है हमारे इंडियन गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल्स का. और ये थी सेकेंडरी रिसर्च जो कि हमने वेबसाइट से की, मतलब नेशनल सैंपल सर्वे से उनके डेटा को हमने यूज किया. फिर हमने सेकेंडरी रिसर्च भी की, मतलब हमने कुछ ऑडियो रिकॉर्डिंग्स की हैं जो कि हमने साइट पे अपलोड भी की थी फर्स्ट टाइम जब हमने प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट दी थी. तो उसमें क्या है, हमने लोगों से बात की जाके, उनके इंटरव्यूज लिए कि आपको क्या प्रॉब्लम है, आप किस प्रॉब्लम से हॉस्पिटल में जा रहे हैं, आपको वहां पे क्या इशू आ रहा है. ये सब हमने उनसे बातचीत की और वहां से भी हमें यही पता चला कि उनको बहुत प्रॉब्लम फेस होती है वहां पे दवाइयां एक्सेस करने में. और ये भी हमने उन्हें हमारे सोल्यूशन के बारे में बताया कि अगर हम ये सोल्यूशन प्रपोज करें तो आपको क्या लगता है, कुछ बेनिफिट होगा. एंड हमें काफी पॉजिटिव रिस्पॉन्स मिला जिसकी ऑडियो रिकॉर्डिंग साइट पे अपलोडेड भी है.
Okay.
तो यस, तो ये हमने मार्केट डिफाइन की. यस सर. और मतलब ये कुछ वेज थे जो हमने मतलब यूज किए अपने यूजर्स को अंडरस्टैंड करने के लिए. कुछ इंटरव्यूज लिए हमने उनके, खुद मैं हॉस्पिटल गई अपने टीममेट के साथ. हमने वहां पे मतलब लाइन जो इतनी बड़ी बड़ी, वहां पे दिल्ली में एक हॉस्पिटल है जन लोक नायक. सो वहां पे हम गए थे और वहां पे हमने खुद मतलब ऑब्जर्व किया कि बहुत लंबी लाइनें लगती हैं, बारी आती ही नहीं है लोगों की. तो ये सब कुछ हमारे कुछ बेस थे जिनसे हमने यूजर्स तक अप्रोच किया. और मार्केट के बारे में तो मैं आपको इससे पहले मतलब बताया. यस सर. सो दिस वाज ऑल अबाउट आवर रिसर्च.
देखिए, मैंने आपको एक आर्टिकल शेयर किया है, ठीक है, which talks about the contribution of, तो मैंने जस्ट एक सर्च किया आपके प्रेजेंट करते करते कि कंट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ मेडिसिन इन हेल्थ केयर कॉस्ट. मेडिसिन कैन कॉस्ट medicine can account for up to 90% of healthcare spending by poor people. देखिए, मेडिसिन का जो कॉस्ट है ऑलमोस्ट 90% ऑफ द कॉस्ट ऑफ टोटल हेल्थ केयर है. ठीक है, आपके जो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट में ना ये सबसे पहले आना चाहिए. ठीक है, आपको ये कहना है, देखिए आपका आइडिया ये है कि आप कह रहे हैं कि मेडिसिन का जो एक्सेसिबिलिटी है वो हेल्थ केयर की एक्सेसिबिलिटी का एक बहुत बड़ा पार्ट है. ठीक है, मैंने डॉक्टर को दिखा दिया अपने आप को, डॉक्टर से कंसल्ट कर लिया, बट मैंने मेडिसिन नहीं ली तो उस कंसल्टेशन का कोई फायदा नहीं. ठीक है, क्योंकि अल्टीमेट क्योर जो है वो वहीं से शुरू होगा. ठीक है, जब उस कंसल्टेशन का जब इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होगा तभी तो क्योर होगा. ठीक है, आपकी प्रॉब्लम के 2 पार्ट है. पहला ये कि मेडिसिन का नहीं होना, ठीक है, या मेडिसिन का नहीं मिलना. ठीक है, उस केस में क्या होता है कि मेडिसिन अगर यहाँ से दुकान से नहीं मिली आपको, जहां पर आप सरकारी दवाखाने से नहीं मिली, तो क्या होता है कि लोग अपना इलाज नहीं कर पाते हैं. ठीक है, क्योंकि उनके पास पैसे नहीं है और वहां से नहीं मिली, और वो इलाज बाद में जाके और बड़ी प्रॉब्लम बन जाता है। ठीक है, तो आज आपने इलाज नहीं करवाया, आपकी बीमारी चलती है, 10-15 दिन बाद आपको पता चला आपको बहुत ज्यादा सीवियर कॉम्प्लिकेशंस हो गए। ठीक है,
यस
दूसरा प्रॉब्लम क्या होता है कि अगर आपने यहाँ से दवाई नहीं खरीदी तो आप किसी और दुकान से जाकर दवाई खरीदेंगे जो कॉस्टली होगी। तो या तो आप अपनी तबीयत
Yes.
के लिए सफर करेंगे, अपनी हेल्थ में सफर करेंगे, या तो अपनी पॉकेट में सफर करेंगे। और ये दोनों प्रॉब्लम बहुत बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है। ठीक है, एक हेल्थ केयर के
Yes,
डोमेन
sir,
में।
exactly.
ठीक है, आप उसको
Yes.
ऐसे प्रेजेंट करिए। देखिए, आपका जो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट है ना, वो ये नहीं कि मुझे लाइन में खड़ा होना है, या मुझे गर्मी बहुत लग रही है क्योंकि वहां पे छत नहीं है लाइन में, या मुझे इंफॉर्मेशन सही से नहीं मिल रही। ये सब बहुत प्रैक्टिकल इश्यूज हैं। बट आप उस प्रॉब्लम को ज्यादा बड़ा करके ये बताइए कि ये प्रॉब्लम इसलिए इतनी बड़ी है क्योंकि पूरा देश सफर कर रहा है। ठीक है, क्योंकि
Yes,
इसका कोई
sir.
सिस्टम नहीं है, और ये सिस्टम के नहीं होने की वजह से हम इलाज को प्रोलॉन्ग कर रहे हैं। हमारा जो ट्रीटमेंट है वो
Yes,
प्रोलॉन्ग्ड है।
sir.
और दूसरा ये है कि उसमें कई लोग डिप्राइव्ड हो जाते हैं। ठीक है, और
Yes, sir,
अल्टीमेटली कई लोग बहुत बुरी लेवल तक सफर करते हैं। ठीक है, फिर वहां से आप उस
Yes.
निटिग्रिटी में जा सकते हो कि अच्छा इसको क्या करना है, कैसे करना है, इसको कैसे सॉल्व किया जा सकता है। दूसरा, यूजर कंसर्न में भी ना आपके जो क्वेश्चंस हैं, आप उसी क्वेश्चन पे लेकर आओ कि आप दवाई कहाँ से खरीदते हो, आप किन किन जगहों से, कितनी बार आप सरकारी दवाखाना से दवाइयाँ खरीदते हैं, कितनी बार आप प्राइवेट जगह से दवाइयाँ खरीदते हैं। अब उससे ये पूछो कि आपकी दवाई खरीदने में से 100 रुपए की अगर दवाई खरीदते हो, तो अगर अलग अलग बार अगर आप कुल मिला के 100 रुपए की दवाई खरीदते हैं, तो कितने रुपए की दवाई आप प्राइवेट से खरीदते हैं और क्यों। ठीक है, ये आपके यूजर के रिस्पॉन्सेज जब होंगे, और 100-50 लोग अगर ये कहेंगे कि हमारा बहुत सारा हिस्सा केवल इसलिए यहाँ चला जाता है क्योंकि हमको दवाइयाँ नहीं मिलती वहां पर, जबकि गवर्नमेंट ये कह रही है कि हम तो सब कुछ फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं। ठीक है,
Right.
अब क्या होगा ना, आप जब इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करने के लिए जाएंगे, तो अब आपकी केवल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है इस प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व करना, बल्कि हॉस्पिटल की भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बन जाएगी कि आपको सपोर्ट
Yes,
करना।
sir. उनका
ठीक है,
सपोर्ट चाहिए.
तो उस जगह पर क्या है ना कि आपको प्रॉब्लम को उतना सीवियर प्रेजेंट करना है। ठीक है, यहाँ पे
Yes, sir.
आपका इंटरेस्ट केवल आपका पर्सनल एंटरप्रेन्योरल इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, आप सोसाइटी के लिए काम करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं। ठीक है, तो
Yes,
आप
sir.
उस मुद्दे को ना उस लेवल पे प्रेजेंट करिए आपके प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट में। ठीक है,
Yes, sir.
और फिर
Actually,
उसको
sir,
अपने
मैं
रिसर्च में,
एक चीज.
जब आप उसको रिसर्च
Yes,
में
sir.
भी लेकर आ रहे हैं ना, तो उसी पॉइंट पर ही बैंग करते रहिए बार बार। आपका ये कि मेडिसिन का अवेलेबल नहीं होना कितना बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है। ठीक है, मार्केट का रिसर्च क्या
Yes.
कहता है कि देयर इज नो मैकेनिज्म टू प्रोवाइड राइट इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट अवेलेबिलिटी ऑफ मेडिसिन। सेकंड, देयर इज नो मैकेनिज्म टू प्रोवाइड मेडिसिन एट अ राइट टाइम एट अ राइट स्पॉट। क्या, ठीक है, तीसरा यह है कि व्हाई गवर्नमेंट कैन नॉट थिंक ऑफ अ डिलीवरी सिस्टम फॉर दोज हु आर रियली नीडी ऑफ दोज मेडिसिन। ठीक है, ये आपके 3 क्वेश्चंस हो गए। ये 3 क्वेश्चंस अपने आप आपके रिसर्च के थ्रू आंसर हो जाएंगे, और वो बैक करेंगे आपके आइडिया को जो आपने प्रेजेंट किया हुआ है, कि आप कह रहे हैं कि दिस इज अ सिस्टम व्हिच कैन पॉसिबली हेल्प पीपल टू रजिस्टर, टू ऑर्डर, टू गेट मेडिसिन इजीली। ठीक है,
एक्चुअली सर, मतलब जिस तरह आप कह रहे हैं कि हम उस चीज को ज्यादा प्रेजेंट करें कि हाँ उन्हें मेडिसिन मिल नहीं सकती, आई वाज नॉट मतलब प्रेशराइजिंग दैट पॉइंट, बिकॉज जो हम सॉल्यूशन प्रपोज करने वाले हैं वो मे बी इस प्रॉब्लम को ना सॉल्व कर पाए कि दवाइयां नहीं मिल रही, बट रादर वो इस प्रॉब्लम को ज्यादा सॉल्व करेगा कि उनको बहुत देर वहां वेट करनी पड़ रही है, बट उन्हें पहले ही पता चल जाएगा कि हाँ उन्हें वहां लाइन में लगने
हो
की
सकता है, हो
जरूरत है
सकता
या
है।
नहीं.
नहीं नहीं, वो दोनों को सॉल्व करेगा मुझे लगता है। एक तो ये है कि उनको क्यू में खड़े होना है कि नहीं होना है, और दूसरा एक हायर अथॉरिटी को ये भी तो पता चलेगा कि वहां पे मेडिसिन अवेलेबल ही नहीं है। ठीक है, तो आप तो दोनों ही प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व कर देंगे। तो कई बार क्या होता है कि कई बार लैक ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन इज ऑल्सो बिगर प्रॉब्लम, स्पेशली इन दी हेल्थ केयर डोमेन। हमको यही पता नहीं चलता कि कितने लोग बीमार हैं। ठीक है, तो अथॉरिटीज क्या करते हैं कि उतने ऑर्डर सैंक्शन ही नहीं कर पाते हैं। ठीक है, तो रूरल सेटिंग्स में ये नहीं पता है कि अच्छा कितनी वैक्सीन चाहिए, या कितने प्रेग्नेंट वुमेन है। मतलब मैं एक जस्ट एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ, ऐसे बहुत सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन है जो उनके नेट में है आज के डेट। लेकिन ये है कि हाँ, अगर इन्फॉर्मेशन राइटली प्रेजेंट की जाए तो हो सकता है प्रॉब्लम ज्यादा बेटर सॉल्व की जा सकती है। तो सिस्टम पे एक बर्डन हो जाएगा कि अच्छा ये इन्फॉर्मेशन हमारे पास बार बार आ रही है कि मेडिसिन टाइम पर नहीं आती है। इसका मतलब है कि आपको वो मैकेनिज्म बनाने हैं, वो वेंडर्स आइडेंटिफाई करने हैं जो राइटली, टाइमली, प्रिसाइजली मेडिसिन डिलीवर करें। ठीक है, ये इतना बड़ा प्रॉब्लम नहीं है कि आपको मेडिसिन नहीं मिल रही है। इसका मतलब है कि मेडिसिन की बहुत ही बड़ी किल्लत चल रही है, हम एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं मेडिसिन। ठीक है, एज अ कंट्री। ठीक है, इतने सारे एक्सपोर्टर्स हैं हमारे यहाँ जो मेडिसिन एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं। हम वन ऑफ द चीपेस्ट मेडिसिन बनाने की कैपेबिलिटी रखते हैं एज अ कंट्री। ठीक है, किसी भी मेडिसिन का हम बेस्ट वेरिएंट बना सकते हैं। ठीक है, विदाउट गेटिंग इनटू ऑल दोस कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज एक्सेप्ट अ फ्यू। हमारे सारे फार्मा कंपनीज ने वो सारे रूल्स ब्रेक करके या रूल्स को ट्विक करके या उन्होंने कुछ नए रास्ते निकाल के सारे वेरिएंट्स बना लिए हैं। ठीक है, सो इट्स नॉट अ बिग प्रॉब्लम फॉर द गवर्नमेंट टू प्रोवाइड मेडिसिन। मुझे लगता है आपका जो बड़ा प्रॉब्लम ये है कि वो लैक ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन, लैक ऑफ राइट इंफॉर्मेशन, ठीक है, एंड लैक ऑफ राइट एक्सेसिबिलिटी। ठीक है, एंड राइट इंटेंशन ऑल्सो। क्वेश्चन करो आप, क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं? इंटेंशन पूछो आप, क्यों नहीं हो रहा है हॉस्पिटल्स में, होता क्यों नहीं है? ठीक है, और उसको बैक करो आप अपने यूजर रिस्पॉन्सेज से। यूजर ये कहता है कि मैं चाहता हूं मैं वहां जाके खरीदूं, बट मुझे मिलता ही नहीं है। ठीक है, ये सर्वे में आप यूजर्स से चेक करिए कि उनको सही में ये कितनी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है।
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, okay, I think it's an interesting problem. No? Just keep working on it, keep discussing, keep analyzing, keep meeting people who are in the similar domain, maybe doctors, maybe administrators, maybe higher authorities who are basically looking into these areas maybe the decision makers and all. They will be able to tell you very interesting insights that why this is not happening and why they are struggling with the problem even after so much of time. ठीक है, पिछले 10 सालों में मुझे लगता है हेल्थ केयर में काफी काम किया है गवर्नमेंट ने, बट अगर फिर भी ये प्रॉब्लम बनी हुई है, इसका मतलब है कि कहीं ना कहीं कुछ एक ऐसी चीज है जो आप सॉल्व कर सकते हो।
Yes, sir.
ठीक है, ऑलराइट, ओके, वी आर गोइंग टू टेक द लास्ट enterprise, but I think we can possibly have a discussion. We are planning another round of discussion to discuss tools extensively, which I was talking to Ms. Manglika. And we'll possibly be discussing tools, and during that time we'll possibly take up the new lot of enterprise also.
Definitely, sir. Yeah.
So can we have the last group if somebody is ready?
I guess Harjot raised his hand initially, and also like Sambhav,
Abhishek,
you would like to come forward. Abhishek Jain. Any of the three, if you would like.
Drishti group.
Sambhav.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Sir, you can screen visible.
Yes, we can see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible. Yeah.
So actually, sir, I have a complete document about my idea, but I will discuss this with the PPT. So my idea is about secured IoT products, and जो हमारी प्रॉब्लम है IoT प्रोडक्ट्स को लेकर, हमारे इंडिया के अंदर इस टाइम ह्यूमन मशीन इंट्रैक्शन और मेकाट्रॉनिक्स का बहुत ज़्यादा बूम है, इवन पूरे वर्ल्ड में बहुत अच्छा बूम है। एंड IoT एंड IIoT जो इंडस्ट्रियल बेसिकली हमारा पूरा चैलेंज है उसके ऊपर है। तो अभी डिवाइसेस में क्या होता है, जो भी IoT डिवाइसेस हैं वो ना अफोर्डेबल बनाने के लिए उसके अंदर कोई भी सिक्योरिटी चिप्स नहीं लगाई जाती है। जैसे सिक्योरिटी चिप्स हमारे मोबाइल्स में, लैपटॉप्स में, सब डिवाइसेस में होती है, वो हमारे पास नहीं होती है। तो हमारे पास काफ़ी ज़्यादा सिक्योरिटी चैलेंजेस इसकी वजह से आते हैं। एंड जो चैलेंजेस हैं वो बहुत मतलब उसके एग्जांपल्स हमारे पास काफ़ी सारे हैं। इवन एक एग्जांपल मैं आपको बताऊं तो एक US कंट्री में हुआ था, वहाँ पर एक रिटेल स्टोर का स्मार्ट AC जो है वो एक हैकर ने हैक करा था, जिसकी वजह से अब IoT जो है वो अपने नेटवर्क के ऊपर काम करता है, या तो ब्लूटूथ या फिर वाईफाई। तो उन्होंने AC हैक करके उस नेटवर्क के अंदर एंटर करके उनकी क्रेडिट कार्ड मशीन, डेबिट कार्ड मशीन को हैक कर लिया था, जहाँ से उन्होंने सारे कार्ड्स का डेटा बेस एक्सेस कर लिया था और उसको यूज़ कर लिया था। तो इस तरीके से IoT डिवाइसेस की सिक्योरिटी बहुत ज़्यादा हमारे लिए प्रॉब्लम रखती है। एंड इसकी वजह से हमारी मार्केट ग्रोथ जो है वो काफ़ी ज़्यादा रुक जाती है, क्योंकि बहुत बड़ी-बड़ी इंडस्ट्रीज जो हैं वो जल्दी से ऑप्ट नहीं करना चाहती हैं इन तरीके के डिवाइसेस को, ताकि उनकी जो भी एक्सेसिबिलिटी और जितना डेटा है वो सब कुछ सिक्योर्ड रहे, एंड वो अभी नहीं चाहते हैं। जबकि हमारी जो मार्केट ग्रोथ है वो बहुत ज़्यादा अच्छे से बताती है कि इस मार्केट के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा बूम आ रखा है। इवन जो लोग हैं, जो टीनेजर्स हैं स्पेशली, वो बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड होते हैं IoT के प्रोडक्ट्स को लेकर, बट इनके सिक्योरिटी की वजह सिक्योरिटी के ऊपर बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन मार्क आता है। इवन इन सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज की वजह से हर साल बहुत ज़्यादा फाइनेंशियल लॉसेस होते हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा डेटा ब्रीच होने की वजह से लोग डिप्रेस्ड भी हो जाते हैं। इसका कोई डेटा मेरे पास एज सच नहीं है, बिकॉज IoT डिवाइसेस के ऊपर पर्टिकुलर कोई सर्वे नहीं है इंटरनेट पे। हमारे यूजर्स बहुत सारे हैं, इंडिविजुअल कंज्यूमर्स भी हो सकते हैं, स्मार्ट सिटी रेजिडेंट्स बहुत ज़्यादा हो सकते हैं। इवन इस टाइम पर गवर्नमेंट के बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं स्मार्ट सिटीज़ को लेकर, जहाँ पर वो सब कुछ स्मार्ट करना चाहते हैं। इवन ट्रैफिक लाइट्स हो गई, स्ट्रीट लाइट्स हो गई, सब कुछ हो गया, बट उसके अंदर भी सिक्योरिटी का बहुत बड़ा कंसर्न आता है। एंड अभी तक सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम ये है कि इसके बारे में अवेयरनेस बिल्कुल भी नहीं है। बहुत ज़्यादा लोग इस चीज़ को जानते भी नहीं है कि कितना ज़्यादा हमें इम्पैक्ट कर सकता है या फिर कितनी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम्स क्रिएट कर सकता है। इवन हेल्थ केयर जो हमारा डोमेन है, उसके अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा स्मार्ट डिवाइसेस आजकल यूज़ होते हैं, जहाँ पर पेशेंट्स की रिपोर्ट्स, उनका जो बहुत क्रूशियल डेटा होता है, बहुत ज़्यादा वो भी बहुत रिस्क पे रहता है कि कोई भी उनका डेटा को छेड़ छेड़ सकता है। इवन उनकी मेडिसिन की जो भी क्वांटिटीज़ हैं, उनको चेंज कर सकता है सब कुछ। और हमारे इंडस्ट्रीज़ के ऊपर जहाँ की मशीन्स को हम पूरा ऑटोमेट करना चाहते हैं, उन मशीन्स के ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा रिस्क रहता है कि अगर उनको किसी ने हैक कर लिया या फिर कुछ भी हुआ, तो उनका पूरा वर्कलोड खराब हो सकता है सब कुछ। और हमारे जो ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, इसको हमने आइडेंटिफाई करते हुए, जहाँ तक अभी मैंने रिसर्च करी, बिकॉज मैं बहुत ही R&D स्टेज पर हूँ, मेरे को बहुत ज़्यादा लगता है कि हम ब्लॉकचेन और मशीन लर्निंग को इसके अंदर इंटीग्रेट कर सकते हैं। और ब्लॉकचेन एंड मशीन लर्निंग के बहुत ज़्यादा हमारे पास बेनिफिट्स हैं इस चीज़ के अंदर इंटीग्रेट करने के, और हम उस से बहुत ज़्यादा सिक्योरिटी मैनेज कर सकते हैं। हमारे प्लान्स जो हैं वो बेसिकली वही हैं। एंड इवन मेरा सबसे बड़ा प्लान सबसे पहले तो यही रहेगा कि मैं बहुत ज़्यादा अवेयरनेस इसके बारे में जनरेट करूं। और जो भी मेरे फ्यूचर प्लान्स हैं, बिकॉज मेरा बहुत इनिशियल प्लान है इस चीज़ को लेकर, क्योंकि मेरे को ये सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम लगती है इंडस्ट्री के अंदर सिक्योरिटी को लेकर। दैट्स वाई मेरा ये बेसिक प्लान है। अदरवाइज फ्यूचर प्लान्स थोड़े से बहुत मतलब कुछ ज़्यादा चेंज्ड हैं। और इसके अंदर मैं इधर आपको तो मेरी प्रॉब्लम
So
स्टेटमेंट
संभव मेरे पास दो क्वेश्चंस है। आपके पास डेटा क्यों नहीं है? सिक्योरिटी IoT बेस्ड सिक्योरिटी का मार्केट कितना बड़ा है और कितने बड़े प्रॉब्लम्स, इसका डेटा होना चाहिए।
मेरे पास जो मार्केट का डेटा है वो सिर्फ इसका है कि IoT प्रोडक्ट्स या फिर जो IIoT की मार्केट है, उसका मार्केट कैप कितना है। बट कितने
ये
उसमें
IoT मार्केट का $595 600 बिलियन का ये मार्केट है, IoT मार्केट। ठीक है, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, मैंने सर्च किया अभी। ठीक है, IoT सिक्योरिटी का जो मार्केट है, ठीक है, IoT सिक्योरिटी का मार्केट है $20 बिलियन इन 2023 and going to become $60 billion in 2028. Securities का, ठीक है, it's a big market. I think you should capture these data ना. I will share with you the link.
ओके सर, बट सर इसके अंदर ना एक चीज और है, जो इसके अंदर सिक्योरिटी की जो कंपनीज हैं या फिर जो भी हमारे कॉम्पिटिटर्स हैं, वो
नहीं, ऑल राइट, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ, नहीं, you why I'm telling you to refer to this information, because see this, when you are presenting a problem, you are saying IoT based security is a problem. ठीक है, आपने पहले सबसे प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट में ये बताया कि IoT based security is mostly ignored part and has not been emphasized much, but it is going to be a big sort of like opportunity or big sort of like challenge in future, and this requires to be looked into. ठीक है, पहला पार्ट तो क्लियर हो गया। सेकंड, आपने ये कहा कि ये मार्केट बहुत बड़ा है, ठीक है, सिक्योरिटी का मार्केट, और इसमें बहुत सारी पॉसिबिलिटीज है। इट्स a $60 billion मार्केट in next 3 years. That is also a good sort of statement. Third, possibly you can also look for the what type of losses and what amount of losses are happening because of the lack of security in this domain. Fourth, you can talk possibly about what type of competitors are there and where they are based right now, and how many of them are the Indian companies who are basically looking into the Indian market. How big is the export possibility in this scenario? What type of mechanisms, devices are possible in these scenarios?
Yes, sir. Sir, I
ठीक है,
have the data about the competitors also. I have not
हाँ.
described that.
Yeah. So talk about, take names of the competitors. Huh? Why not to identify people by? So you can say that IoT based security. There are some who are basically doing a virus scan. Some who are doing maybe the core sort of like computing security. Some might be at a surface level doing data fetching and data cleaning. I don't know
Yes, sir.
the good terms, real terms, and all, but I think this is how market can be divided. And then you present your way, like what you do. Are you providing a chip? Are you providing a system which is basically going to work as a filter? Or are you providing some sort of like security which is to be enabled or to be attached with all the devices which are going to be coming in the future as a revolution of
Yes,
the IoT system?
yes,
So
sir.
I think that need to be presented not only in your problem statement but also in other sort of like domains. Yeah. Then you can
Yes,
possibly talk about what type of customers you might have. You might have a lot of like B2B customers, and some of them could be B2C customers also. And possibly you can have more sort of like a service company who is possibly looking into all data security requirement for any company who is willing to take your services. Or maybe you are going to provide only hardware which are going to be installed and can be used.
yes, sir.
Yeah, bring in that clarity. You have to be stronger in those areas, and you should filter your those domains and choose one which are more lucrative to you or more aligned
Yes,
with your idea.
yes. Sir,
Right?
actually, I'm having a lot of data, but it's in my doc and
No,
I
no, all
can't
right, no
represent
issues,
it
no
with
issues,
you.
no issues. But see,
Yes,
when you even if you don't make a presentation in a pitch also, maybe in
yes,
an elevator pitch, you can possibly mention 2 or 3 very important information, yeah, which establishes your context and helps you to take this conversation forward. You
yes,
can
sir.
say your company works in the IoT-based data security domain. Yeah. That domain
Yes,
is mostly ignored because a lot of people don't understand what is IoT-based data security requirement. And that is why lot of like breaches or maybe data hacking or whatever happens in this domain. Yeah. Because of this
yes,
reason, this is all happening. And then you can talk about how big is the market for this and where you are really trying to make your sort of like services available.
yes,
How this is going to going to be aligned with the social sort of like you have social objectives in this area. You also have to
yes,
highlight those. Yeah.
sure, sir.
So ultimately, it has to benefit large number of people in the society. Those who are maybe suffering because of the poor devices or maybe poor systems or maybe lack of awareness or maybe yeah the possibilities emerging in the future.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. So yeah, do we have any questions? Maybe no more presentation, but maybe you can have some questions if there are any from the participants, from the
So
groups who have
if
not made any
anyone
presentation.
would like to ask anything, please raise your hand. Any questions that you have a doubt to, or maybe like while doing the assessment or assignment that was assigned to you, faced an issue or something? Yes, Ashutosh, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Saurav. Good
Yeah.
evening, sir. Sir, I
Yeah.
had the question like where you were saying about the secondary research. How do we deploy people for that and like they should align to our objective? How do we impart that objective to them that they also invest their soul while like gathering the responses for the user research part?
So secondary research, one is like make your objective clear in terms of like what you really want to get answered from the audience, the target audience. So what is your objective for going for certain type of research activity. Yeah. So make it very clear. Let's say in case of maybe the medicine delivery system, the objective is to understand what type of pain points are there for the consumers who are not able to access public provided medical services or medicine services. Yeah. This is your question. Now you want to ask people why you are not able to access, how you will possibly be able to access these services, how you want them to be in the given situation, or maybe what type of other challenges you are facing if you are not able to access those medicines. Could be the series of questions. Yeah. So this can go in a questionnaire format. So first, your objective, why you are asking this question. Second, who are your audiences? If they are based in and around you, possibly it is easier for you to go and collect the information. If they are far located and they are spread across the country, then you will need more number of people to go out and then reach out to them and get those responses. Maybe in large number of audience scenario, you have to have some samples where you will possibly target your research and get those information and can claim that, okay, this is the representation of large masses. So maybe you can plan for one state based research and you can say this state represents the whole country. Or maybe you can plan for 3 states with some limited number of like locations. And you can claim that this is a representation of the country. Maybe you can have some agency who has such type of reach. Maybe you can rely on some government agency in different states and you can ask for their support and they can possibly throw your or place your questionnaires and get responses and then give it back to you. Yeah. In all these scenarios, very important thing is like your questionnaire should be very simple. It should be precise and it should not be having any sort of like challenges while filling up in the process of data collection. Yeah. So that is one which you should be careful about. Second is like if questionnaire is simple and manageable, then possibly the team should be definitely hired in such a way that they are aligned with the idea of this research. They have interest to take it up, and you can possibly tell them why you're doing this research, why it is so important, and why you should be part of it. If you're paying them, then possibly they will be more aligned. If you're not paying, then possibly they need to be motivated and they need to be brought to a level where they feel that this is something which need to be done. So it's multi-level. I think intervention you have to do to get to a level where your research goes well. Mostly we don't need a good number of people or good amount of like big amount of team if your research is too extensive, it's not too extensive or it not depending on responses from multiple centers or something. Like a lot of time I've seen in my personal experiences, I've seen the automotive research requires multi-city responses because every city behave in a different way for bike or car purchase. Yeah, in terms of their specifications or their choices of features or in terms of pricing. Every city has a different sort of like idea about cars or bikes. So in those scenarios, agencies are hired and they're asked to get those surveys filled. But in healthcare scenario, I usually see that there are good representation from different villages or different hospitals to make a sample for the whole country sort of like response. Maybe you can divide it as per the geographic conditions. So maybe you can target for few PHCs or few hospitals located in coastal areas. So they have different type of problems. You can talk about flatlands and where you will possibly go for some number of surveys. You can possibly look for hilly region. You can possibly divide it according to dry, very high sort of like very strong summer or very harsh winters or maybe very humid climate. So those could be possibly type of sort of like segmentation you can do, and then from there you can possibly collect the data. So it purely depends on like what is your nature of query is there and how you are going to make use of maybe people in and around it.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sambhav, you have the next question. Saksham, sorry.
Hi, sir. Hello, sir.
Hi,
Sir,
hi, Saksham.
sir, I want to ask about the market size. Like, if we Google about any sector, we can easily find out the market size. Let's talk about the healthcare industry.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we are not targeting the whole ecosystem in healthcare industry. So, how can we figure out the serviceable market size? Like, what can be the points in which we have to focus?
Uh, so serviceable market possibly can be estimated by maybe filtering down in terms of how different segments are there in given category. So let's say a detergent market has a huge sort of like market in India. Almost every family uses detergent. So by doing so, you will possibly not be able to make out how many users are there. But if you say premium detergent, that means hardly 10 to 15% families are using that. Okay. Within that, if you just look for the eastern states, then you will have 10 states which are falling in the eastern category. And you can say only 1% of market is there from the eastern states. Yeah. Within that, if you just say that, okay, price band between maybe 150 rupee per 150 rupee per 250 grams, 150 to 200 rupees, then you will find some users. So out of 1%, possibly 0.5 will be in that category. Okay. Within that, if you just say that, okay, I want to only limit myself to cities, I'm not going to go to villages and all, then further reduction of almost like 0.5 will go down to maybe 0.05, maybe 10% reduction. Okay. And that is how you possibly try to figure out what is something where you will possibly be able to see a real market for your idea. Okay. And within that market, if you just say, I want to service only these, let's say if market is coming down to maybe 1 lakh kg of detergent per year, you divide it by 12, you will get 10,000 kg per month approximately. Okay. Is the capacity which you can produce. You can say 10 lakh kg can be only supplied in West Bengal. So you will not be targeting only to the, you will not be targeting to all the eastern states, but you are only targeting to maybe West Bengal or maybe other eastern states, 2 or 3 different states. So that way, then you can see that, okay, how your market is getting narrowed to this level that you can pinpoint, okay, only Calcutta, Guwahati, maybe Shillong, or maybe some other 1 or 2 cities is your target market in eastern zone. When you get this, then possibly you can look for the network or maybe shops or maybe distribution systems or maybe channels or something. If you say that, okay, only these cities, but I will go online, then your strategy will be very different. And why only limit to these cities? You can go across and you can sell all over India by using online platforms. Then your strategy, promotion, marketing will be different than what you have decided right now. But usually it depends on like actual what is the actual total market. Within that total market, how much market you can access. Within that market, how much you really want to serve to. Yeah. And your personal capacity, whether you can serve that market or not. Yeah. So even if you can serve to maybe 10,000 kg per month market, your capacity is hardly 5,000 kg in a month. Yeah. You cannot make more than this for a year. Okay. So in that scenario, what will happen? Your serviceable market is only limited to your capacity of production. And then look for where all you will have priority to sell your products.
Okay.
Yeah, so as per your priority, as per your choice, then you will identify, okay, I'm more comfortable in Calcutta, but I'll not go to the northeast. I'm more comfortable with Calcutta and Bhubaneswar, but not Bihar-based cities. Okay. So that is how you will then say, okay, this is something which is our market now. And all promotions, radio jingle, your billboards, your newspaper ads will be focused only in 2 cities, Bhubaneswar and Calcutta. This is your possibly go to the market approach. But this all will happen together in bits and pieces. You will possibly be working on the idea on one side. You will also be working on identifying customers. On the other hand, those customers based in certain markets. In terms of market, how many number of customers are there? If you get to that, how much you can really produce, come back to your own capacity and capability. Once you decide this much I can produce, then again you go back and see if I can produce this much, then how big a market I can basically acquire. If I'm able to acquire this much big market, then in 1 year, how much more we can possibly expand. It's basically your scale. Yeah. In 5 years, where I really want to be. Maybe all northern states or eastern states, then you have to have that capacity and that growth. Yeah. And this is where your funding agencies will be looking into that whether you have potential to grow, whether you have any idea to grow, whether you have possibly plans to expand and reach out to that type of level. It's something which you have to present at a later stage.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Any other question?
I guess we are not having any further questions, sir. So let me, teams, I would just require your attention for another 1 minute or so. Since the thing is that these workshops are helping you in covering all the aspects that we are taking it from the start. And initially, the thing is that you filled all these 7 different questions that we had initially in the application form. So since identifying a challenge and problem statement, since you have already worked upon the problem statement part, and now you must have also refined your problem statement by now by submitting these 2 tasks that were given to you. So maybe what you can do is like you can log in again and rephrase or reframe the problem statement that were given to you accordingly, and maybe identify since you have also identified a user as well, so you can update all these questions accordingly, whatever that you have worked upon so far. So just a request to you as well. Like before we like get into the next workshop, like in the coming week or so. So I would just request you to kindly update this profile or this project details accordingly. And also to the ones who have not submitted your tasks, it's the last by tomorrow, like we won't be entertaining any further submissions. So kindly submit the same at the earliest by tomorrow. So yeah, sure. Thank you. This is what I wanted to convey. Yes, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir.
For
Looking
attending
forward
the
for the
session.
next session. Yes, sir. Thank you, everyone. Hoping for a great weekend ahead.